update here. There was a mistake in the bracket, so we might need to bring that up for a second here. The lower half of the bracket, the players were swapped, so we're going to have that updated. We had some pros that were panicked here. This is the proper part of the second half of the bracket. It's Kiwi and Clem and Probe and Nightmare. We had Kiwi and Probe swapped. So just a quick update there. If you're just now joining us, we saw a crazy one-sided series, shockingly one-sided series with Parting versus Elazer.
Yeah, it wasn't close. Unfortunate for Elazer, as I was saying on the last cast. But I mean, Parting, what can you expect? He's expected to be the overall favorite in this whole tournament.
Yeah, dude, that push he did, I mean, he executed it flawlessly. It looks very tough to deal with. And I'm kind of curious how the other Infernals are going to deal with that. I'm not sure what you're supposed to do, so I'm curious how that's going to look in the future. But Pine looks very strong here.
Yeah, I mean, he looks... Celestials is kind of scary. Like, it seems like it's built... Like, when I play it, I'm like, how am I not going to rush with this thing? Like, it's so tempting to attack.
It just takes over your brain. You're just like, oh my God, the Archship is moving.
It's crazy how abusive you can be, how much you can lean into whatever you want to do with the faction. So I guess we're going to find out as time passes if anybody could stop it.
Yeah, I didn't get to play much of the closed beta, so the past couple of days has been my first experience playing Celestials and getting used to this new race. And I feel like a fool after watching Parting because I've been trying to macro and take a third base. I'm building the crystals. I'm getting all the...
You didn't know that the collection array was like actually so busted as well.
Like
no, stop making crystals.
Yeah, we were literally talking about, what's that? Last night we were talking about the rates of gather for the collection array versus... What's it called? The prisms?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a learning experience.
Yeah,
the race plays very different from almost every single, I think every single RTS race I've ever played in my life. It is crazy.
Yeah, I've had a really hard time wrapping my head around it. Like, as I was playing, I was streaming it yesterday, and I could feel my brain, like, getting hot just trying to learn it. Yeah, it's got a very different way of functioning. Anyways, we're actually ready to go into our game, guys.
Oh, wow.
This is Theory versus Miggy. Theory from the US of A, and Miggy coming from China. It's going to be Theory here Theory's on Infernal, and Miggy's going to be playing Celestial.
Yes. I'm very curious what kind of difference we're going to see between Miggy and Parting, obviously, because they're both playing Celestial. So I want to see what kind of strategies that Miggy wants to throw out here. Obviously, he's currently not even sending out the Archship. He was just leaving it towards his base for now. So not going to be doing anything super aggressive with it. This is also the biggest map. We've got Lost Hope here, 4-player map. So going to definitely be a bit more difficult to do something super aggressive if you don't even know where your opponent is.
It does seem like sometimes you make it stay by your starting Luminite gathering structure. Is that called the array, right?
The collection array.
Collection array, thank you. Because you want to get one more worker out and then try to move it out on the map. But yeah, this is a map where there's a lot of different, well, more than just one spawn for your opponent. So I guess you're a bit more incentivized to try to stay back and defend.
Yeah, definitely, especially with this Hexen poking in here. You do want to shoo that away with your new Morph Core that comes out. And we do see Miggy taking a natural here, as he sees that it's not the push that Parting was doing, that Archship is at home, so he knows he's safe to take that natural base. And we have the Creation Chamber coming down at home as well, so yeah, he knows he's pretty safe to macro up here. At this map, if you look in the center, all that green is Therium.
Yeah.
So if this becomes a long game and you're able to control the middle of this map, you can have an overwhelming economic advantage, and sometimes the game leads towards that.
Yeah, it seems like if you were to play this map correctly, you would try to somehow get map control and then just suck up all that Therium. And then you would have such a disproportionately strong Therium-based army. Obviously, Therium's kind of the more valuable, rarer resource. It's harder to gather. I mean, with an absurd amount of Therium like that in there, yeah, it's very tempting to get in there and try to do something.
Now with the Guardian Nexus coming in, we're going to have some Kree relatively quick here for Miggy. If I'm not mistaken, we barely saw any of this unit in Parting's game.
He didn't
go see one.
He
He didn't make any. He didn't even mind any Therium.
He doesn't mind Therium.
Yeah.
He's a man after my own heart. I haven't mined the second resource with this race yet.
Oh, that's right. I was watching.
Yeah, I don't do that. Those are resources that
That's
can
not
be
a
mined.
tasteless thing.
You want to go for the Luminite purely and just try to close the game out that way. So this is going to be an exploratory cast for me.
Yeah.
Seeing him do this. But
you get to see the entire other half.
First thing other than a Zealot zealot
Yeah,
speed
yeah.
fade effect.
This is different. Now, the Kree builds I've heard of. My chat's told me about him. This is apparently like, I guess if Artosis were to play this race, this is what he would be doing. This is the honorable way to to play the game. Basically teching into melee units and trying to put pressure on and really developing up.
Yeah, the Kree is a really fun unit to play around with, especially against Vanguard.
Look at it go.
I feel like, yeah, the way they roll
in a
around like this
sonic ball.
is great.
It's
It's
a
like someone
droidica.
took a Zealot and a Baneling with centrifugal hooks and combined them into one unit, because not only does it do splash damage on contact once it breaks from that rollout, but also when it dies, there's a brief period where it's stunned, it's locked in place, and then it explodes and does small AoE damage around. It's a really fun unit to play around with, not just because of the speed, but just how explosive it is in those opening engagements.
Right, and with the upgrade, it has 50 armor as it's rolling around, which is an insane amount.
Yeah, that's
and
wild.
it's actually insane, and they're very tanky. And you see them here already jumping on some of these infernal units. You don't want to lose these gaunts early, and they are quite squishy. He doesn't manage to get any. He has to back up here. It's a good save there by Theory. And he's going to make a tower just to make sure these Kree don't run wild, basically.
It is very interesting that he is just going straight into Kree as well. He didn't even try to like do anything with early Argents or whatever. He just straight up rushed right to Kree, knowing that he had the room to do so. There's nothing that the Infernal can really get out at you that early to actually punish you from doing that. So just goes straight into Kree, goes right across, rolls on over, and he's going to be able to do some little light harassment here and just maybe prevent Theory from trying to take any extra bases too quickly.
Yeah, it looks like he wanted to poke into that spot in the bottom right. You can expand there. That location, also known as the place I thought was the starting location when I tried to
Yeah.
scan the Celestial. Has everybody else experienced this?
Everyone
Same
did it.
thing.
Yeah.
Everyone did it. I
Right.
saw MC do it as well with the
Oh, did he
dog
do
in
it?
the first series.
I've had enough games where I go, my God, he's not in any of the other locations on the map. So, yeah, he checks down there to see if there's a base. Now we're going to have a little bit of pushing in. I think there's no way that you can get too deep in here as Miggy here. Theory is too safe.
Yeah, Miggy's just going to try and come in here with these Kree and basically take any free damage that he can. Of course, with the rapid cooldown on the rollout, you can kind of come in, do some chip damage on the gaunts, maybe pick off one or two, and then immediately peel back to that healing zone. And behind this, because you have the map control of the Kree, Miggy back at home, he's starting to expand. He's getting a lot more prisms out. He's already taken the third collection array, so his economy is really booming, and Theory is, up until this point, contained. And of course, with the speed of these Kree here for Miggy, not only is he able to keep Theory on his side of the map, but Miggy can now also take control of those creep camps and start collecting some bonuses.
Definitely, and Theory is now taking his third base, which is a little bit behind Miggy's. So I'm not sure how that's going to line him up economically here, if he needs to do something or if he's content to just macro up here. As we were talking about before, the middle of the map is very important, and we do see Miggy being the first person to go out and contest it, taking that vision camp. The vision camp now gives not only the vision in the middle of the map, but also extended vision to all your units, a slight buff to every unit, their vision. So you might be able to get the edge on your opponent with that vision buff by seeing them a little bit earlier than you would originally. You're actually going to roll in here with a few Kree. If you can detonate them on a worker line, like, you're going to get good value out. But the main purpose is to see if he's taken that other base in the pocket.
He hasn't seen
there.
the bottom right. He thinks that maybe that's not still taken here. Because he definitely wasn't actually pressuring. He was taking the towers when Theory actually expanded. So I don't think he's actually seen the bottom right. He might think that Theory's still on two bases.
Right, so Miggy maybe slightly in the dark here. I think he will eventually confirm, or maybe he just presumes there's a third and he's checking if there's a fourth.
Perhaps.
Yeah, he might have wanted to see if there was something finished where, maybe that other base could have been, just to get an idea. I mean, when you think about it, if your opponent could expand and there's a base that can be seized and you have no way of just confirming it or not, you could be in a completely wrong place. So he's going to come down here and check again. He's going to see the later third is going to be getting developed down here now. And, it's interesting to have a change of pace here with a bit more of a macro development Celestial game after kind of having those crazy parting games.
I feel like this game is already lasting quite as long as for the first two games of the last series. I mean, this is great.
But I want to see where Miggy tries to develop up to from here. It looks like we have Theory now on the push, starting to move out on the map.
Yeah, he's going to move out with that first Magmadon. Very strong if he can get them on top of the Celestial unit. I'm curious what Miggy's tech of choice is going to be here. I've seen some people trying to use the Animancers with the Storm, but I'm not sure if that's the best option. He has a lot of creation chambers right now, so he can just keep making a bunch of core units here. Okay, he's actually got a ton of Ardents there, as well as Cabals.
I'm curious what the Cabals are going to do, because the ability that they have to like lift things up and stun them could be really good against the Magmadons as well. But all of a sudden, actually, we're in the other side of the base here. I'm not sure how he's even gotten into this spot.
Oh, with the Magmadon through the tree.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah. So there's just an opening here in the main, because yeah, those Magmadons can tear down trees, and so. Now, I mean, the core infrastructure is very exposed.
Yeah, but the Magmadon not really getting a big stomp off, that means that Miggy's going to be able to come in with all these reinforcements, and suddenly Theory's going to have to peel back. For a moment there, I was thinking that Theory had a big opportunity to get some damage done, but of course, without that Magmadon, those Kree are so scary with the pure Gaunt Force, because if they get a full surround, I mean, those Gaunts go down in a couple of seconds at most.
I mean, Miggy has to know at this moment, he is in the lead. He hasn't won yet, but he's certainly winning, right? I think the idea there from Theory was not bad, but clearly he wasn't prepared to just deal with the basic army set that had been made here from Miggy. Miggy now continuing to roam, and it's going to be a moment where, yeah, Theory has to basically back off and start to expand and develop.
The thing as well that's kind of interesting to note here is that Miggy playing Celestial, the longer that the game goes right now, there's a lot of confusion from the Celestial players of how to actually play against late game Infernal, because it gets very difficult once the Infernal army gets super just well-rounded. There's a lot of extra splash damage with Hellborns, with Magmadons, and things like that. And so it becomes quite difficult for the Celestial player to actually deal with that. So we do need to maybe see Miggy go for an aggressive push like this to try and maybe cut him off before he can really start to power up into the later stages of the game.
Absolutely. And we see Theory now just coming up on 130 top bar energy. Once he gets to 150 and tier 3, he will have the Dragon available. So you could be starting to bank his top bar energy and Therium, because it's 700 now to get that. But we actually see the big push coming in here. He's got towers. The Magmadon's trying to get on top of this army.
I mean, he tries to push in. The Magmadons, they drive him back, but then they basically exhaust the Magmadon's stomp ability. I don't know if he used all of them at once or not, if he has more pocketed, but Miggy trying to move in, not able to really do much damage. You know, Theory did end up burning a little bit of Animus there in that attack, so that's going to put him further out of range of that Dragon.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that's going to be online anytime soon, but he does have the Harbinger out here, which is great. He does need some way to deal some damage back eventually, so that is one harassment option. It's just sitting there right now, but what's actually inside that right now?
Bunch of Gaunts.
Bunch of Gaunts.
Oh, there's so many Kree waiting for them.
Yeah, there's no way this can work. Gotta say, right now, I mean, Miggy looks to be in really good shape.
Oh, they're leaving. Hold up.
Well, they got a
Juke 'em.
top right base.
Juke. Okay, well, I guess he's just going to go down here anyway.
You know, I guess one of the problems with doing Gaunt drops is, like, what are you going to invest?
Yeah,
You
it
know,
takes so
with
long
this
to kill
matchup,
these things.
I mean, there's not. I mean, when you're against Vanguard, you have the Bobs, or Infernal, you got, you know, the Imps.
Yeah.
Right, those prisms are actually kind of tanky, and also the top bar ability of the Celestial that attacks can deal with the drops really well, I think.
Yeah, it almost seems to me like Gaunt drops aren't the way to play in this matchup.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what you want to do yet, though. I still don't really understand Celestial.
I feel like just getting like just a really big army that just like can't be stopped, because the lacking splash damage from Celestials is the major weakness in the later stages, I would say. Like what you're saying, like the Storm from the Animancer is not amazing. Like, it's sort of okay. You also have to channel it from the actual unit too, so the unit almost can be like on a suicide mission, just trying to get these storms off. So it can be quite difficult to actually get anything. And then other than that, there's not much extra splash damage you can get onto the big armies.
Yeah, not until you get up to Archangels. I feel
dude,
like
those
once
things
you
are
get
crazy.
Archangels added into the mix, if you have the economy to support it, then your maxed army here is Miggy is going to beat Theory's max army, unless Theory gets some phenomenal engagement. But with the low-tech units that Miggy has right now, really all he can do is exert map control. But as soon as Theory's army supply starts to balloon up as it's beginning to. Actually, Theory now moving into the center of the map. Miggy a little bit disjointed here, but Theory just doesn't have quite enough in the front to actually capitalize and take down those Argents. Look at the supplies, though. Theory starting to really dwarf Miggy. It looked like Miggy had this game building with a ton of momentum, but now also this Gaunt drop at the top base, taking out all of those Prisms. Theory with some really good plays despite being stuck in his corner for the majority of this game.
Yeah, he can't drop over there. The Harbinger is going to have to just continue to head southbound and avoid this area entirely. Nobody's really tried to dominate the middle yet, but I mean, would you agree, Serge? It feels like we should be at that point, right?
As we reach like 4 or 5 bases, I think that is the time. And you do see Theory now starting to make this trail of towers towards the middle. And I think eventually, as you run out of gas in the main and at your other bases, that is going to be the late game plan here. You can't just sit on like Luminite units forever, right? You do need that gas, so I think eventually we will start to see a fight here for the middle. Theory also has enough Animus here to get a dragon if he can get the Therium necessary. It is 700, so if he can secure this middle, it could be really good for him in the late game.
Yeah, a push coming down here from the middle of the map into the south. I mean, there's kind of a slow creep spread here. I don't think Miggy can actually push this. I think the supply makes it pretty clear he can't, but then even the Shroud Stones here. Oh, this might be an overextension, but let's see.
Yeah, this is a lot of units coming out over here. The Stomps are going to start to come out from the Magmadons, but actually they're not really getting into the big cluster of Argents over on the top side of this engagement. But after the initial front line does get shaved off, now we can maybe start to get a little bit towards that back line here as Theory. It's actually the Animancers are trying to do their best as well to be able to slow a lot of these units down. Did you see any of the Cabals lift anything? I don't feel like he's using that ability, actually.
I didn't see that, but there is a bunch of Krees down there by themselves on the left here, fighting a tower while the main armies were fighting. So a little bit disjointed there. If he could group up, he might have a better chance. But now, as this shrine goes up, the Celestial player's on a clock. Like, you got to do something about this. You can't just macro out of this unless you're taking your own gas in the middle as well. So he's got to make something happen.
Yeah, honestly, Miggy has not looked bad, but I feel like he pushed in and just kind of threw away a lot of his supply. And, you know, you don't have to attack into your opponent. Nobody's making that rule here. You could keep trying to take the map. I feel like in some ways Celestials are the best at just taking so much of the map and locations that are obscure and hard to reach. But it seems like Miggy's playing more of this like almost StarCraft 2 or StarCraft 1 towering Protoss style and trying to get compositions and then trying to push as if the matchup requires that of him. It doesn't seem like it does, but now the counter push is going to come here from Theory.
Yeah, Theory just has so much on the map right now. He's been chipping away at Miggy's army for a while, and you can really see the economic advantage that Theory has manifesting in the supplies, almost doubling his opponent. And these Argents, they aren't really the unit that you want in this situation regardless, but a lot of them in the back also very low on energy. I don't think Miggy's going to have the DPS in his army. And oh, look at the Stomps coming in from that first Magmadon, and now all of the Gaunts adding in. Oh, the Stomps are just insane from Theory. Miggy tries, he might just split these Argents. He just does not have the sustain in terms of HP or DPS to hang on. And Theory is playing this one really well. I think he's going to breach into this natural expansion and take this game.
Yeah, we've got the Mass Shroud coming down here with that global ability from Theory. And, I mean, at this point in time, that's going to be a GG game one. Just, got to say, a great game. I think Miggy was like halfway there. Developed really nicely, played a pretty, excuse me, played a pretty good macro style, but didn't really know where to take the game.
I think he was doing really good earlier to deny the bases and stuff like that, but I feel like he got stuck taking the towers in that one moment, and that's when Theory was able to start expanding some more. I feel like he maybe could have still kept trying to deny like the third bases and stuff like that, because then once Theory started getting those extra bases, that's when he just starts to really power up, and you just can't deal with the overwhelming numbers that Infernal can really pump out once you get so many bases out. So I feel like he maybe should have been continuing to be as aggressive as possible no matter what was happening.
Should he cheese in this next game?
It's really a smaller map.
I mean, if you can, why not, right? Like, it's definitely a strong option here, and if you have those builds in your back pocket, I think it's worth trying here and seeing if Theory's ready for it or not.
Or if you had a little notebook out when we watched Parting versus a Laser to start things up, because he made it look very easy. And that was a different style than what we saw from Miggy in that previous game. But I think if we go into a smaller map, you kind of want to test Theory a little bit here as Miggy. Theory has shown that if he gets into the late game, he is a very formidable opponent. His defense was on point. Even when he was cornered on his side of the map, with his Gaunt drops, he was able to get a lot of economic damage done, taking down Prisms at a couple of different moments there in the top right. And I feel like for Miggy, with how good the early game was, if you're going to have that early game and still not be able to carry that momentum into the late game, you probably should try and shake things up, either with the way that you're developing your build at home macro-wise, or with some kind of all-in build here in game number 2.
Well, we're in game number 2 now. It's going to be Miggy versus Theory, with Theory up 1-0. I do feel like there's a world where Miggy can play a conservative game and then just play a cleaner end game. But, you know, it's really hard in a new RTS game to figure out, like, okay, where exactly do we want the game to go once we have the lead, right? That's where you have so many different options, so much more tech. It's so much more convoluted than early game.
Yeah, absolutely. We did see him go towards the Animancers towards the end of that last game. So I think that was his plan as far as unit comp goes. But he wasn't able to get there. As soon as he had that critical mass of Magmadons, Theory was able to just kind of push through everything. So I like what you were saying earlier. I think it was about hitting a timing, some kind of timing before the Infernal grows too much and gets that, what seems like the better late game comp, right? Especially once the Dragon comes out and you have Magmadons disrupting all the channeling abilities. It seems tough for the Celestials to keep up, so I'd like to see something a little bit more mid-game focused, if not early game focused.
He's not even really sending out the Archship this game either. I mean, I think that this map is an excellent one to be going for something like that, because the cliff underneath that natural is... Oh, wow, yeah, wait, what? Oh, hello there.
What is his imp doing?
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, what's happening
That's
here?
not the right base, you silly little guy.
No, I actually, for a second in my mind, I was like, yeah, well, of course, because Theory's in the bottom left. No?
What's going on?
What is this little guy doing? Having fun.
Gonna build a
Hey.
meat farm?
Meat farm?
Oh, that's just a totally...
No.
A tower?
It's a shroud.
Do you ever wonder if he just made a mistake and now he's like, I have to look like this is a strategy now? Like, this is being broadcast and I'm going to throw a meat farm here and never say why. Okay, so this is kind of smart because the meat farm, obviously, it's going to generate fell hogs, which can do damage and be a nuisance over time, right? So maybe this puts a strain on, well, I guess not if he has an Argent, right?
And the top bar ability too, right?
I don't think that targets
That
buildings.
doesn't-
Oh, it
It
doesn't
doesn't-
hit buildings now, does it?
Does it target fell
Oh.
hogs?
Well, that's not...
There's-
That's
It
a
would,
Shroud Stone.
but yeah, this is a Shroud Stone coming in.
I
think,
thought, I'm sorry, I thought this was a meat farm for a second. Okay, it's a Shroud Stone. That makes much more sense.
Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much this is going to get done. Keep in mind,
You
by
can
the way,
push
the
away the
Argent, it is going to take
prism.
some
Dude,
damage here, but the...
This is sick.
But is it
Taste
worth
is
it?
looking at the
I'm like,
cheesiest little thing.
buildings. Buildings.
Taste is like, oh, I'm doing this on ladder.
Neuron activated.
This is great. Look
Now
at
I can do this.
Well, I'm not sure how much Theory is really going to be able to get done with this, though, because keep in mind, the damage that's getting done on the Argents is not permanent damage. They can go under the... what's it called? I want to call it the Arc Nexus, although the Arc Ship.
Yeah, the Arc Ship.
The Arc Ship.
Arc ship, right?
The Arc Ship here at Tier 1. It does have this healing ability. It costs 25 energy, but it's almost like a Salve in Dota. You cap it. If you take damage, then suddenly the healing dissipates. But if it's allowed to progress, it will basically heal all of your low-tech units all the way back up to full HP. So Miggy had a little bit of mining time disrupted there from Theory, but I don't think it's worth losing a worker that early, and also
Do you think?
obviously throwing down the Shroud Stone also costs money.
Sorry, I was gonna say, do you think that tower push is a response to the build that we saw Parting do? Because if you were pushing across the map with everything,
Oh, you know what?
that might be
It's like
difficult
a
to deal
counter
with that
cheese.
tower.
Yeah.
It might not always be clear where the Arc Ship is, right? Once you're out
Right.
that far. But no, that's a good point. Because once that gets up, the Array Collector is really cumbersome to move, right? It's a really slow building. We got a push coming up here for now. And it's going to be a lot of pressure coming up. It's not clear how ready Theory is for this. He's got some gaunts, and the bottleneck makes it a little bit difficult for Miggy to really get up there and do damage.
Yeah, I like that wall off to really restrict how much micro you can do with those Argents. That's pretty good. And if you're also pretty far away from any power banks, once you do your first couple volleys with the Argents, it becomes basically a non-factor. Like they're pretty weak without their powered attacks from their energy. So there's not really much that Miggy can do except doing a little bit of poke, and then he's going to be able to steal the health camp away. So at least doing that. But I mean, Theory's not really content on trying to do anything outside of the map anyway. I think he seems pretty safe going for what he was doing last game, which is just turtle up and make sure he doesn't die early, so that way then he can bloom in the late game.
Yeah, I think he's very confident when it gets to, like you say, the late game with those higher tech units. He's confident he can outscale the Celestial in terms of army power, basically. And I think it's going to be on Miggy to make something happen here. He does have map control right now, which is very nice. He did manage to take away Theory's health camp and now the vision camp. So Theory's definitely playing a little bit more defensive here. You don't want to lose all the camps. Like the Luminite camps and the Theory camps do give you a huge income boost. So at some point you'll have to kind of get out on the map, but he will be looking for that third base first, I would think.
So he's going to clear these creeps down here and continue to roam. It does seem like in this matchup, from what we see so far, and again, the game's very new, but it seems like, especially if you're going for Gaunts, the Infernal has to turtle a little bit here. Like the Argents are just a little bit too strong at roaming on the map.
Yeah, very scary to be out on the map, especially against Krees, as they're so fast. If you get your Gaunts caught, like the game can just end, right? So you have to play a little bit safe, and he will take his third base now. And I think as he gets a few tech units out, like Magmadons and stuff, he can start to contest these creep camps.
I love this play by Theory, taking the third base all the way here at the 3 o'clock. I was wondering for a moment how he's going to take the 12 o'clock expansion given the map control that Miggy has, but Theory just in one fell swoop, he chops down those trees, he immediately goes onto the ramp and throws down the 2 Shroud Stones, and Miggy didn't have the pace to actually get there in time to really contest it, so Theory's been playing very defensively, but he's going to be able to get his third base safely up about the same time that Miggy is setting up his third expansion as well. And Miggy, it's kind of the same story as game number 1. He has a lot of map control, but his army, it's not very high tech. It's just basically tier 1 units.
He is going for Starforge this time, though, which is a switch up. So he will be going for some of those more mechanical, robotic-looking units. So like the Scythe, the Vector maybe, or the other giant cannon one that I forget the name of, but it like shows that really cool Saber, yeah, super long range attack, which looks really cool. But so it's going to be a little bit of a different composition here coming from Miggy. We'll see if this is able to do anything here this time. This roly-poly's going all the way up into the main base here to get a nice big scout. That extra armor doing pretty good, and then you see Theory even keeping those imps away, make sure the splash damage doesn't hit them there. And a couple more actually even rolling. They
killed it! He canceled it!
Oh, there was a cancel. Oh my god. I was like, what the?
Am I blind? Wasn't the
crazy.
HP like 60%?
That was almost done.
It's a little hard to see with the colored life bars. I'm not used to that, but yeah, no. That was confusing. But, I mean, that's a pretty big hit now for Theory. I mean, Miggy getting a nice move here, being able to force that cancel is really
It's kind
good.
of shocking how much harass you can do with just a couple of those Krees. They're going to come back, and he could actually, he forces a cancel again.
We talked about being aggressive in the mid game, and I think this is exactly what Miggy needed to do here to stop Theory kind of spiraling out of control. Nice pick off there, and he's breaking down these choke points as well, so he's going to have even more avenues of attack here as the game goes on.
You know, if he can keep this up, it's possible that Miggy will just outpace Theory in a pretty, you know, simple game from here on out.
Unfortunately, there's still a Gaunt attacking that Conclave there. He needs to make sure he takes that away there, but some Kree will at least force his hand there. And I'm curious what the transition here is going to be. What are those Star Forges actually going to be for from Miggy here? I'm really wanting to know what the composition is going to end up being here. Perhaps maybe even some sights to do some continual counter harass with a flying unit instead, not being able to get forced away by the cliffs and everything, and just go around and really pull Theory apart.
The Sight's a very interesting unit, right? What is it? It does more damage the closer it is?
Which is such a weird and interesting mechanic. I kind of like that. So like if you're just right on top of the mineral line, you'll just kill everything. But if you're actually kind of like forced to stay away, they don't do that much damage.
I think the idea is that it can never take on any real army. But if you have any real weakness, it can blow it up faster than anything else in the game.
I'm still almost dumbfounded that Miggy was able to come into the third base and just take that expansion out so
that was
quickly.
sick. So Theory tried to take that thing, but then Miggy saw it. There's a top bar ability that lets you immediately kill a creep camp from Celestials. So he sees that Theory's trying to go for it, and then instantly reacts and uses the top bar ability to just steal it away from him. That was actually sick.
That is so clever. I don't think I've actually seen that ability used in that way
I feel like it's
before.
not a StarCraft approach,
That was awesome.
but that was really impressive.
Yeah, we do see the double Harbinger drop from Theory, which did a lot of damage in the last game eventually. So this could be a way he kind of starts to catch back up here. He does have Magmadons out as well. That's going to I was going to say, you got to be very careful here flying these in. There is a Scythe there ready. It does drop, and it's trying to get some damage done. I kind of see exactly what it's hitting there. The Krees come in, though, and this will have to pick up here in a second.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he does kill the array.
Oh, he got it.
It actually gets out, I think, barely with both Harbingers. Yeah.
With a Scythe, you think he should be able to chase us down, right?
That kind of looked dubious for a second there, but he actually managed to get the collection array, so maybe it's worth it. And if he can get out with one as well. Oh, can he save it?
I feel like Miggy, if he had microed that a little bit better, if he had closed the gap, as Gemini was saying, and added some more DPS to those sides, he might have been able to take that Harbinger down, but instead Theory able to get away with almost everything. One basically full dropship of Gaunts for collection arrays. Not a very bad trade here for Theory.
So the creep camps are starting to repopulate here. I think map domination is still going to go to Miggy for the time being. So he might want to start trying to get back out there and make that work. I do feel like Theory has had his moments of pushing out, but really it's been a very Miggy dominant game. I'm sure he's going to take these creeps out in a second here. Yeah.
He has two Scythes. I'm curious what he's going to add in more. Is he going to keep making Starforge units?
Maybe what you want to do is you want to start the fight with your main army, and then you come in from a side and get right on top of them with the scythes. If they're targeting other stuff, you probably need the scythes to do damage for like a couple seconds.
Right.
And maybe that's enough to just completely sandbag
the other thing
snowball, excuse me, the fight.
The other thing too is that the Scythe has the upgrade or the ability. Once it takes damage, it starts taking less damage as well. Like it can trigger to take less damage for a certain period of time. So then, if you come in at the right time, like you're perhaps then canceling out a lot of the damage that the Infernals is trying to throw out. Perhaps that could also try to swing it here too. Also getting a vector in there as well is interesting. Maybe that was a fat-fingered hockey or something, but one or two vectors
it's like
in
the
the army is like
host.
a little strange. Yeah.
We saw 3 Morph cores there going up to actually Theory's side of the map.
Oh my god, just stealing everything.
Stealing all these resources. So he says, if my units aren't better, then my economy's got to be better, right?
Surely.
So he's taking more bases here, and he's starting to grow. Theory is moving down and taking his 4th. He still hasn't taken the 12 o'clock, so I like taking this 4th base because it's very easy to defend, right? You can actually defend your 3rd and your 4th on the same front. So that's going to make that easier. A ton of buildings down here for Miggy, and he is making more scythes. Do you think at some point we see him use those to harass imps with?
I feel like we have to at some point. I mean, we're kind of just sitting around with them right now, and he's got a pretty large supply discrepancy here in his favor. I feel like we need to try and maybe just again, like earlier, he was doing so good at splitting up Theory, pressuring and harassing and canceling bases. But now we're in this phase where we're transitioning, and now we're also still kind of just clumping everything together. I feel like we can very easily be sending these sites around to poke away at one of the bases, and then poke forward with maybe some of the other units in the army, and just really force Theory to think a little bit about where he's going. But right now, Miggy's just kind of stalled it out and not really doing too much all of a sudden.
Yeah, I agree, and I really like what he's doing here. He took the vision camp, and now he's putting buildings up there with the Saber. He's going to have a strong push on that base. These Gaunts actually get caught down here.
Oh,
that's painful.
Painful pickoff.
Yeah, not even a trade in the slightest. By the way, there's a lot of Therium for Theory. He's at 1 point, almost 6K. Is he banking this?
Theory's got a lot of theory.
Yeah, that was so confusing for a second.
Heyo.
But in all seriousness, he's almost at 1.7 now. Is this just an unnatural imbalance in like him having a resource he can't spend, or is he banking
I think
that?
it might be. Because you can see how much Luminite he's constantly not being able to have as well. Like he's basically starved out on Luminite right now. So I think if he was banking for something, we would also see him trying to bank out the Luminite as well. But I mean, this forward position that Miggy's got set up here now is actually very good to deny the, or attempt to deny the mining at this extra base here. And now we're also starting to get some more Kree going to the natural as well, so this is much better, I think, from Miggy.
Yeah, Miggy, after catching that dropship, just immediately taking the initiative, and Theory's in a really tough spot because he can't afford to expand to the 12 o'clock position. It's just a little bit too outstretched. He's instead trying to control the middle, but Miggy just has the stronger army, and now that he's adding in the Sabers, I mean, there's so much range that even mining has been denied. So Miggy effectively on, what, 5 bases worth of eco versus the 3 bases here of Theory, because this fourth is... It's not going to mine for a very long time. We do have some more flying units coming up from Theories. He's going to try and contest these in the air, but also with the multiple arc ships here for Miggy, there's so much healing even on those sides. I mean, they go in for an engagement, they take some damage, but with their ability, they're able to mitigate it, and then they pull back to the arc ships and they heal back up to max. It's a really well-played game by Miggy. For a moment, I was thinking the same thing as you guys. It was a little bit odd that he wasn't trying to pull Theory apart more, but frankly, he doesn't need to. His army is looking so commandingly powerful.
This is really cool to see, I guess, late-game macro Celestial, right? I think most people have had that kind of rush, chaotic Celestial game mindset, but yeah, you can play him just straight up like this.
Nice to be able to get a deny on one of those collection arrays as well to try and force Miggy's hand a little bit here. He hasn't really been getting harassed at all. I mean, Theory's just been sitting back and trying to scale up as much as possible as it worked from last game. This time, though, Miggy going for the totally different composition is finding a much better success with it, like we were saying. The Sabers here to just do this constant poke damage with all the turrets getting set up on these high ground positions. I think this is going to be much better for him.
Yeah, dude, this position that Miggy has here, this stronghold kind of fortress on the high ground, is going to be incredibly hard to break. What we see Theory going for, instead of taking a direct fight, he's adding in Weavers. So he's going to try and yoink the expensive units out of Miggy's army and try to get value that way. But every time you do, I don't know, like these buildings are pushing up further and further. The Sabers are denying mining. It's getting scary.
Okay, we got a huge attack coming in here. Theory's going to try to dive in, and he is completely deflected there by Miggy. Again, the Luminite is really the thing that is being fought over. As long as Miggy has his position, he can basically loom over that spot and punish any workers that come in there. Meanwhile, sucking up so many resources elsewhere on the map. We've got a couple fiends around here trying to do damage where they can, but it's pretty easy so far for Miggy to just come back and clean up elsewhere.
That did at least buy Theory a tiny bit of time here to get maybe a better position. He's going to try to go yet again, but continuing to get pushed back. It's so difficult to actually push into this with your Weavers to get the yoinks because the Sabers are so far back. You can't actually get on top of everything. And he's trying to go in yet again. We've got the extra energy light coming in onto the Argents to make sure they're continually stacked up with energy so they can totally just always put out those crazy overpowered attacks and everything. So very nicely done there by Miggy to keep that, keep all of his units just in the middle here. Just really, I mean, this is looking so awkward now for Theory to probably bust into. Every time he tries, he's just getting pushed back.
Again, Theory tries to dive in, but it doesn't look like he has the right tools to dismantle this. I mean, we were talking about the Weavers earlier. I don't know if they can comfortably get in range. It feels like you can just take a couple steps back as a Celestial, and it's
oh
just
my
already
god.
there.
He's actually going to go for it here, pushing up onto the high ground. There's so many Sabers here, so many lasers just deleting this infernal army. It's looking really rough. He does have the dragon.
But Theory's actually starting to push through a little bit. The supplies have evened up.
Oh
Finally, they're actually getting some contact there on some of the Sabers. The Sabers are falling, and somehow Theory is turning this one around.
What?
The Blade Dragon
This
doing
is
so
insane.
much work, and Theory somehow broke out of a position that seemed unbreakable. And I think Miggy just got completely toppled in the middle of the map.
I cannot even believe that happened. He's just going to keep chaining the infest. The fiends are going to keep wiping out these. That's going to be it, GG!
Wow, what a game. I can't believe he held on
Look
for
at his
so
face like,
long
what
there.
the? How did I lose that?
Oh.
What?
What did I do wrong?
Oh my god.
I feel like the AoE damage is just really lacking there for Miggy. I mean, his position was so strong with the static defense, with the long-range attacks coming in from the Sabers, but the fact is that the army, full-on white health coming in from the Infernals, was just absolutely massive. And honestly, the supplies didn't really tell the full story because just the army coming from Theory was so bulky, it was able to absorb so much damage. And although for Miggy the army supply was very high, it wasn't these units that do a lot of damage straight up. You're not going to completely thin out the front line of Theory for really considerable stretch of time because you don't have any Animancers coming in for the Storm for the AoE damage, and we don't have any Archangels at all, which is the main DPS in the late game coming in there. So, I mean, really just an unexpected turn, as I think everybody here on the disc was expecting that.
That's
to
wild.
not
I
go
thought the
Theory's
game was
way.
going to end. We're going to watch all the Infernal units just sort of disappear. And it's, okay, GG, he tried to break that position, but clearly he knows what he's doing. He knew once he had the Dragon and that right comp, even though, to be honest, it's hard to kind of tell that it's working when it's working, just you kind of daisy chaining the infests together where anytime anything dies, there's going to be more fiends. They're going to hit that, and eventually it'll just kind of melt its way through that army onto the other side.
Yeah, I mean, having the Dragon, I think, in the mix in the final fight was the thing that perhaps actually twisted it towards his favor a little bit more, because we didn't see that in the other engages as well either. And the other thing is, like you're saying, like the lack of splash damage makes it so difficult in those tight corner or tight choke points for the Celestials to actually continue to keep their damage output coming, basically. Like you have like a pretty big amount, but then you just get stuck with a massive overwhelming force coming at you, so it gets pretty tough.
Okay, well, we're in game 3 now. I got to
Theory.
All right. We see a one-base conclave here, so he might be getting aggressive with some gaunts here. We'll have to see what he wants to go for. I'm wondering if Miggy's going to play the same style this game, because he basically got everything you could ask for in the last game. He canceled the third, not once, but multiple times. He took the map. He even stole Theory's base in the top left. That was kind of a dream scenario. He set up his fortress, and Theory was still able to push in and take it. So, like, do you think he has to change things up here, or?
I don't think he's going to get an opportunity to,
Yeah.
because Theory's coming in so quick with this early conclave.
Right.
And Miggy, up until this point, he's been going both in Game 1 and Game 2 for the really fast Kree. And although they are a powerful unit in the early and mid-game, they take a little bit of time to get going. You need to get an additional tech structure up. The creep's actually getting pulled right here by Theory.
how
I'm
does this work?
surprised that he's going for this.
So
I guess he just
does
wants
it-
the
do they
fiend?
turn on the
Yeah, they start to turn.
Okay,
Ah.
I wasn't sure if they, because this game's so new, guys. Sorry, I wasn't sure if they just automatically go back or not. But it looks like he does draw some damage on there. But over time, they just do default back into their position.
Hey, I mean, he could drew it again. He could probably draw some more over if he wants to maybe risk some of his Hexen health there. But he's able to get the collection array down pretty decently here. It could be a little bit sketchy if we get some more gaunts all of a sudden in the into the mixture here.
How quick do the creeps heal? Do we know?
I think it's a kind of a slow build-up, slow
So
tick.
maybe are some of them damaged? Can he try to infest them later? Is that a possibility?
I think they're basically already back at full
Yeah,
HP.
Yeah.
No, look, you're right. You're right. It looks like they are. So,
I don't know if the healing rates are different for the different creeps, but those little, I don't know what they're called.
or
little
maybe
green
maybe
goop-
sometimes
The
when he
green
does-
goops. That's the official name. The green
They
goops.
seem
and
to
the greater
heal
green
pretty
goobs we
quickly.
saw over there.
Yeah. The purple shadow guys.
The poke there was interesting. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe sometimes the creeps do commit onto the building.
Yeah, maybe he was hoping that all of them would stay attacking, but they kind
Yeah.
of just eventually all walked away.
Because it did look like that was a setup, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the early conclave, I was expecting something a little bit more aggressive coming in
Right.
from Theory, but it seems like we are just going to get back into the normal mid-game. And my worry for Miggy, and I know I sound like a broken record with this, is that he keeps playing for these late games, and he doesn't add in basically the ultimate unit here for Celestials, which is the Archangel. And
I mean, it's so hard to get there, right? Like, they're
It is,
so
but-
expensive. You need all those upgrades to make them actually feel like they can do something too, I feel like.
But I feel like both in Game 1 and Game 2, he had everything that he needed.
I think
to
in Game
get
2,
there.
definitely.
Especially
I-
Game 2, yeah. He
I
had
think
like
Game 2
5
he
bases.
could have. The problem is that the Luminite, or sorry, the Therium, like, it's very difficult to keep your Therium coming in as Celestial, I feel like. It's much more difficult to get a lot of income with that. and they're so expensive on Therium as well. And then
It's
all
400, 300.
all the other units as well are also pretty expensive once you get to the later stages too. So it is difficult to find a spot to actually tech transition into them. Like I think that's what we're really trying to figure out as Celestials is figure out when these tech transitions need to happen and what economy do we need to actually be able to support that.
So now we've got Miggy beginning to roam on the map, creep up, going right into those Krees, unsurprisingly. Theory, at this point in time, it looks like he's going to be doing some creeping of his own, I believe. I think he's got some gaunts out here on the map.
There's the purple shadow, guys.
Yeah. And he's going to take them out. And I don't know. This is a map you're pretty far apart. Certainly feels like that. I don't know the exact size of this map, but I don't feel like either side can really do anything to the other side for a little while.
Well, not unless you're partying.
I was going to say, unless you're partying.
But I mean, if you both expand like this.
Yeah, sure. This is one of the larger rush distances, so we'll probably be looking at, I would say, 3 bases minimum for each player as this game develops. I'm going to be interested to see what tech they go into here. He is roaming the map. He's got the Morph Core coming over here. He's going to make another collection array. Opting for this base.
I kind of like it. This is actually what I do when I'm playing too. I kind of move this like vertical area because then you can kind of sit in between those 2 bases as well with some of your buildings and start to just control that area. Similar to how in the last map you kind of take the forward bases too to just have that one forward point that you can kind of just like sit in and then just move back and forth to easily defend.
So we've got the Krees coming in here and spotting. I do like these little building wall-offs over here. It's kind of nice to see the beginnings of the Sim Cities get laid out. For a lot of players when they're trying to learn, it's really hard to figure out where buildings are supposed to be planted, but just seeing the beginnings of more tight wall-ins and these larger ramps is pretty cool.
Right, one of the big strengths of the Kree is that you can send a few of them into each mineral line, right? And get huge damage.
I was surprised for a moment that Miggy didn't take that fight. He was retreating, but actually those gaunts were really exposed. Now Miggy coming back in is basically going to completely reset the gaunt count. The Shroud Stone, maybe not yet done? But I mean, the gaunt count down to like, what, 3 or 4 right there in the natural expansion.
Oh, did he cancel the 3rd again?
Yeah, we did.
This is crazy.
And he got the 3rd.
He's so good at doing damage with a couple Krees early on. It's funny because I guess we're not quite used to seeing really beefy melee units in an RTS come in and then also escape.
Right.
It's one thing to have beefy melee units that get in and start to do damage, and you either lose the game or they eventually get enough, usually smaller units, to kill it off. Here it's like they get in, they kill stuff, and then you actually run back out, which is...
And then you come back in again. And
yeah,
you
you
come
come
back,
back
and then you come back in and run back out. And then the game ends.
Yeah, and you can do it on multiple fronts, as we see Miggy doing, and that's why this wall in that Theory's done is so like important, right? If this base is open and they can run in and get on the mineral lines, you can lose workers so quickly. So he's got to defend all his fronts here, and he's pushing back in. He does have some gaunts on the high ground here, but they're going to focus. The Krees are going to focus this building down again, back off, say, okay, spend some more time and minerals on that.
It's funny. These are important buildings to have, too. He needs this for production, so it's not just about denying that. I mean, you're actually taking out infrastructure with moves like that.
Feels like this is actually a very difficult map for Infernals to maybe set up on because of how far away the bases are, and also you can't do these. You're seeing, in theory, try to do these walls on the left-hand side here as well, and it's a little bit awkward because you can just cut. You have to wall all of that off. There's another ramp to the left here too that leads into the 3rd base, but you can't wall that off because then you can't actually get to the 3rd. But then you have to wall off something over at the 3rd as well. It's like so much more difficult to actually just keep yourself in this little contained bubble compared to last game where Theory was able to easily do that with just the 2 different ramps on the 3 base setup.
Well, Miggy once again going to be going into the Star Forge here. Very reminiscent of his opening on game number 2. He's also adding in a couple additional production structures here. The Creation Chambers warping. And for Miggy, I feel like this, it feels like game 1 and game 2 again, where he's getting these jabs in, he's getting damage done, he's canceling expansions. He's thinning out kind of the mass of gaunts that Theory is trying to accumulate. And both in game 1 and game 2, he was never really able to leverage that into a completely winning position. I'm hoping here in game number 3, actually hold that thought as Miggy's going to come in here with a couple of Kree. There are a good number of gaunts. Is he just going to dive on the Shrine and try and get the cancel? No, instead going for the gaunts. Gaunts are going to kite back, and once that Magmadon comes in, these Kree will have to retreat. So Theory able to defend this base. But again, Miggy, he's ahead in supply. He has the better economy. Theory, he is setting up that third base, but he's not mining from it just yet. I would love to see Miggy leverage this position into some kind of timing attack or some kind of big tech up. And I feel like Theory is potentially thinking of the same thing because he's throwing down a ton of Shroud Stones to try and protect that third base.
Yeah, I mean, he has to get this set up and hold it, or he's never going to be viable in the late game. And remember, we do know, apparently, in the last 2 late games, Theory was way more viable. So, I mean, this might just be a kind of a war of attrition for now. But, you know, Miggy's doing, I think, a very good job here being on the map. He's both engaging and trying to cut off bases, trading pretty well, also getting back and creeping. But yeah, Theory here with this new base, I think that's basically an impregnable spot, especially when you look at the SimCity and the Shroud Stones to defend behind it.
I feel like you're right.
What is this exclamation point?
I think that's
Theory has
Does-
being
is he-
bound
does
to
he-
something
Yeah,
and keeps
yeah,
fat
yeah,
fingering
He's
it.
like, that's where I'm going to hit next. It's like a dart on the board. Like,
this is where I'm looking at this particular
Yes.
moment in time.
he's most worried about cling that exclamation.
Casters, talk about this. Talk about this. Look at my wall. It's brilliant.
Yeah, imagine he's like loading up a drop and he just pings it for the
Yeah.
observers. Hey, yo, observers, look at this thing. Casters, come on, stop looking at the main fight. Look at this drop I'm about to. This is going to be sick.
Yeah. I love it, too, because every time the observer is jumping to it, like, what is happening over
Yeah.
here? Why is this getting
Yeah.
pinged?
That's
I didn't
so
even know you could ping like that at all in 1v1, but
Yeah.
It's like you get. It's like in StarCraft. Like you're about to hit this crazy disruptor shot. You ping them. The casters. Hey, casters! Look, quick! I'm about to kill 40 army supply.
We see Miggy moving out with some arc ships now to the middle of the map. Do you think he's going to try and make buildings there and kind of split the map in a way, or
I feel
section
like-
off a part of it so you can take more bases?
I feel like with this many Argents, you kind of do want to do that because, again, once they start to deplete their energy, their DPS, it feels like, I don't know the actual numbers because the game is so new, but it feels like it basically gets halved.
Right.
They really
Yeah.
don't pack a lot of punch after they run out of energy. And so
Yeah.
for Miggy, if he wants to try and break this position, he's going to have to set up a little bit of a forward base with some power supply buildings, with some static defense, and really just take advantage of the economic momentum that he's got because he's up 134 supply just to the 80 here of Theory. Theory is hanging on these 3 bases, but it feels like just by a thread. If Miggy can find some opportunity to start breaching in any of these wall-ins, I don't know if Theory's going to be able to hold on, but we didn't really see Miggy go for those huge pushes either in Game 1 or Game 2 when he was again in favorable position. So we have to wait and see what the game plan is going to be, but I wonder if this is maybe Miggy getting a little bit inside of his own head because he's gotten into these great positions against Theory, 2 games back-to-back, never was able to break Theory's position, and maybe he might be just writing that off as a possibility here in game number 3. He might be thinking to himself, well, I know I feel like I'm in a good spot, but am I really? Whereas if he were to see the supplies that we could see them right now, 160 to 85, I guarantee you he is pulling the trigger, but when you're actually in the booth with a fog of war, you don't know your position is as good as it potentially is here for Miggy, and so instead he's going to buy his time, but that means that Theory once more is going to be able to get into this mid-game and late game that has been so advantageous for him with the way that he's navigated his army
Yo,
composition.
Is
in
Creep
the
gonna
game.
win this?
Oh,
What?
my
Oh,
God.
creep domination.
It's a level 3 skull squisher.
That's
Those
why he's
skulls
not
got
attacking
squished.
Theory. He can't even beat the creep game.
I
dude.
know.
It's like minus 20 supply.
See that creep through the butt slam? You just take all the creeps out. Like, oh, this might be the wrong unit to use here.
I got Donkey Kong in this thing.
Is it
Jeez.
Donkey Kong that has a butt slam?
Or
Who's-
maybe Bowser? I don't remember, actually.
Oh, yeah, it might have been the Koopas. They have butt slams.
It still
Oh,
like
okay, okay.
700 HP. That was crazy.
Yeah. That sucks. He lost the creep.
That sucks,
That
man.
sucks. That's too bad.
I was gonna
I
say
feel
that.
bad for him.
That's
Yeah,
that's.
no, that was a bit embarrassing. not gonna
I will
lie.
leave a game if I lose.
Call
to
it
the
4K.
creeps. I'm like, nope. This is a mulligan. Like, let's
Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
It's the kind of thing that, like, at Tasteless LAN party, you'll hear Nick and the players be starting to swear under his breath.
That's like when he rallied all his probes in the middle of the map and they got caught, and we cut to him. He's just like, no.
The only way to make this worse for Miggy is now the creep's going to come back and kill his bases. He wants revenge.
Oh my god. I feel like though what I was gonna say earlier is that like the way that Theory's setup and also how this map works is that he's walled off in the middle between where his 2 bases on the right are and the one on the third is, right? And then you have like multiple different attack paths that kind of lead in towards the main and natural. I feel like if we start to batter down the 2 ramps or the 2 walls on those sides and force Theory to think which one he needs to defend, eventually you're probably going to break through somewhere, and then you can split up your army to then get this like huge enveloping surround through the different areas. Because the thing that's so difficult as the Celestial in this position is that it's difficult to deep dive the Infernal Army when it gets kind of stuck in like a little corner and you can't quite get on top of it. But if you can start to open up these different attack paths and then just envelop in a massive engagement, I feel like that's what we need to be doing. But I think he sees the walls and he's like, oh, I can't do anything here. It's not going to work.
Yeah, this map is definitely a bit more open than Broken Crown.
Yeah.
So you do have those extra attack pathways, and as Theory takes the 4th base here, it looks like in reaction to that, Miggy is going to start pushing over here with all his buildings and units. And he's actually getting some damage done, taking out all these fiends.
He's on the island base, so the army here for Miggy can't even really get into a great position to deal with it. But luckily, with the scythe flying up there and some nice lifts on the array trying to run away, he's able to barely keep it alive. 100 HP. It's so funny because usually as a Celestial player going for that island base, it feels so safe because, you know, your harvesters and your collection arrays, they can fly, right? But then the dropship coming in like that one for the Gon.
Oh, I didn't think this into account. Wait a minute. You're not supposed to be able to fly as well. That's cheating. That's illegal.
And somehow the supplies are even here suddenly. Like,
well, that
he was double supply before.
That
creep
guys,
the creep.
20 supply of Krees.
We got to add the creep supply to Theories.
Yeah.
We got to interview the creep after this.
So Skull Squisher, how do you feel? How do you feel after killing 10 Krees?
How'd you feel after you smashed that guy with your butt?
Oh, hold on.
Oh, you do have the storm thing in there as well, kind of making some of those units get stuck and then dealing a lot of damage onto them. I think maybe even using the Cabal ability to lift them and force them into that position, stunning them into it. Very nice wombo combo here. And Miggy forcing Theory back. I do like that mix of spells, actually. That's actually kind of cool. In the little tiny choke points as well is very effective.
So, I mean, a bit of a no man's land has been set up in between red and blue right now. Really the middle of the map here going for Miggy. Not the same as the last game in that there's not like a Luminite resource location that basically you can kind of exploit the position with. But, you know, it is a launching pad for attacks, and speaking of which, we're going to have one here now.
JK.
Baby.
Drove him out a little bit here. We've got Shroud coming down. I don't think, maybe it's going to be a little bit here. Another little drop over here at the base.
Yeah, this time Fury really was pinging it to help us out. The gods are going for the arrays, but actually not really able to get anything done. Looking at the minimap, I thought this was going to be a big win here for Theory, but I think every single Prism and the collection camp surviving, that's going to open up this attack here.
The dragon's here!
The dragon is approaching. But Theory, after shooting off so many gods, is he actually going to push into this position? He's continuing to move forward, but...
good storm on all those Gaunts there. Wow. Takes a ton of them out, and he manages to push Theory back up the ramp here. He does have the Hellborns, though, so he has the range advantage, and he will be able to chip away at this army. We didn't see him add too many of those in last time, but it seems like the dragon is kind of the trigger for Theory to go, right? Once he gets a dragon, he feels confident enough to take on this army head on.
Seems like you got to be very careful to not have too many brittle units in the front here, because that's really where the damage can snowball.
Oh, the stomp onto the back line is sick. I mean, everything just suddenly evaporating from Miggy, and then with the dragon on top as well, the storms on the ground, actually now forcing the Magmadons away. So the back end of that fight kind of going a little bit better for Miggy, but the supply is still in Theory's favor.
Yeah, I think what you see for Miggy is what you get. I think there's a lot more stuff inbound here. He's got to get those Magmadons to plow through those Celestial units here. We've got a couple more units coming down. It seems like it's starting to thin out. Again, I guess as long as there's a dragon, there's going to be a way for him to try to come back and do this again.
I think that second attack actually was pretty bad for Theory.
I agree.
Didn't really lose. Miggy didn't really lose anything there. The
it,
Hellborns were also all on that top cliff. They weren't actually participating in the fight at the second half of it. So, but now one's even getting stuck out here by the Saber. That's a little awkward, but might be able to. Nope, never mind. Damn. Holy, that guy got shot right in the butt. That was crazy.
Yeah, the good thing for Theory is he didn't lose the dragon. and he didn't lose all of his Hellborn. So if he can rebuild back up his front line in Magmadons, Brutes, or whatever, he's going to have another good push here, I think, at some point. We do see him posturing on the top of this ram, throws down the Shroud Stone, and eventually he has to do something here, right? He's going to try and chip away with these Hellborns soon, I guess. Oh, but there's Sabers out as well. I'm not quite sure how that fight goes.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of interesting because for a little bit of time, it was Theory the one that then had the range advantage compared to Miggy from last game, because he didn't have any Sabers in the mix, but now he is starting to add those in. But it was kind of interesting because he was winning the fights without the Sabers as well, which I feel like the Storm and the Cabal wombo combo of storming and then forcing the stun on the units that were in the Storm was maybe doing the big damage there. Luckily, Theory will be able to deny one of these extra mining facilities as well, so that's pretty good for him to maybe stay in this. But this little area in the middle here is still the big contention point. It's been very difficult for Theory to really dislodge this.
Yeah, he may have another attempt to try to do what he did in Game 2. Seems like you have to have just enough Gaunts, just enough Magmadons, basically like enough, I don't know, meat in your army to kind of have the momentum to start to really get in there and make that damage happen. And then try to have the chain reaction of the Fiends with the Infest hitting everything.
I think the problem Miggy has right now is he has no Therium.
Yeah, I was looking at that. It's
He's
basically
got 1,000 Luminite, but nothing. You know,
Oh
you
my God,
can't make any tech units.
he has almost
He's
no
literally
income.
none.
Yeah.
That thing hasn't moved. It's been stuck at 120.
I think it's one prism. I think it's literally one prism because it goes up at 6 to 50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just
There's
went up
one
again.
prism.
That means it's one, not even like a fight won by Theory, a trade, and I think the game could end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Theory
maybe
has the opposite problem now: a ton of Therium and no Luminite.
if only they could trade.
Yeah, really.
both their economies could be
If only
saved.
they had markets like in Age of Empires. Like
You know, for now, I do think that economically, Theory is going to be in a better position. He's got the space in the bottom right. How many expansions does Miggy have? It's a little bit hard to tell how many bases Miggy has. So one, not really. That's a worker. 2, 3.
I feel like a bad episode of
I was
Sesame
about
Street
to
right
say 3. Ha
Three.
ha ha.
Fantastic.
Is this the count?
This is Count Taskula. Yeah, that's his name in the game as well. We did it. We did. We went full circle, guys. We did it.
So, yeah, if he's got to get more Therium. Or this game's not going to go well at all. I mean, it looks like he's getting a little bit more. No, actually, he's not. Look, it's still to 270.
It's
The confounding thing
super slow.
for me, too, looking at this from Miggy's perspective, is you don't. Oh, no,
what's
another
up?
expansion getting taken out. But
Oh, those are flame imps?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently
That's
2 Fiends that
interesting.
he probably thought were Flame Imps when he loaded them up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But for Miggy, I mean, you can just kind of enter the build menu with Q and throw down some of the Theory
that's so
mining
many
buildings
imps.
just basically anywhere.
Yeah,
There's a
dude.
lot of imps on the map right now. Once again, Theory going to try and
the
breach his
yoink on the
position.
Saber.
Oh, stomps.
Oh
Actually,
my.
oh, that is an insane arc here for Miggy. Yeah, Theory does not want to breach that right now. This is a hard position to attack into.
Some Sabers trying to do some extra harassment, but there's nothing even there to harass, so that's not really even going to do anything. But now we can start pushing forward with these Sabers a little bit, maybe to. Well, actually, I'm actually looking at this now. Miggy is also not like trying to really push forward with this. He's really just content with just sitting in this area, and then just killing any attack that Theory tries to go with. And he's just slowly, very slowly, trying to get more prisms out on the map to get some more Therium coming in. Because right now he's kind of starving. There's a siege camp on this map. I didn't even know that. Where's that camp at?
Well, that's that one.
Oh, is that the one that
Tesla
got?
one,
He
yeah.
got the revenge.
That's right.
Miggy's revenge.
I don't know if Theory should be trying to push from here.
I think it's both. It's hard for either of them to push the other.
Yeah.
Like,
And it seems like if one leaves, the other one's going to move in and take it.
Well, this is so annoying now for Theory because you have to bring some units to deal with that. Otherwise,
He's got
it's
his
going to kind of
Fell
just kill
Hogs
all your
fighting it.
bases.
It's like, this isn't going to work.
It is getting whittled down, 60 HP. I mean, just
Look
like
at the
time
missile to
life, right?
shoot. It's
I
like,
know,
it's like bigger than the
ridiculous.
unit itself. All right, he harpoons that, pulls it in. He's going to try to keep doing damage and pushing forward. Does he actually have enough? A lot of static defense over here. Meanwhile, the units, it seems like they need to be infested, are up at the top. Shadow Flyer's coming in, doing a little bit of damage.
There's so many Argents stuck back there for Miggy. You can't get them into the fight. They're stuck behind all his buildings there.
He's got 2 dragons. It's double dragon.
double dragon.
I didn't even know that was
Double
allowed.
dragon.
What does it mean?
Yeah.
Oh man, these Argents just really not packing enough of a punch on the top side. Eventually, we're able to clean up that Magmadon, but the high tech,
sick and fast.
that's the
That's
dragons
the
here
best.
for Theory.
Oh, there we go,
getting
there we go,
so much
there we go.
Oh, and the drop coming in for the Harbinger right on top of the Argents as well as Miggy's supply is plummeting.
Oh my God.
In Theory, I think is getting ready to close out this best of 5 with a 3-0, finally breaching the middle of the map.
Oh
Wow.
my God, that fight went on for
Dude,
forever.
it's-
That was
Yeah.
crazy.
You got to get that money in fast.
Yeah.
And then you just do a little bit of damage, and everything
the
is
snowball
a beat.
is ridiculous.
Well, that was
Yeah.
the
Crazy.
dragon's breath,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
He
yeah.
finally got the dragon breath and
Huh?
spawned so many fiends.
I can't see. It's too many feet. My eyes.
All right. GG is
GG.
called.
GG. Where'd our game go? What's going on here?
Theory
We're
not only
back.
sent Miggy, but also the Observer into the Shadow Realm with that 3-0. That
Nice.
was
Sent to the
what a
Shadow
series. I feel kind of bad for Miggy in all 3 of those games, though, because it felt like the early game and the mid game went so well for him, and he was just never really able to build from that position and close it out in any of the games. I mean, game 1 was relatively close, but game 2 and game 3, it really felt like Miggy delivered some nearly fatal blows to Theory if he was able to just keep the momentum building in terms of damage output. But Theory, I gotta give credit to his tenacity, especially there in game number 2 and game number 3. He took some insane damage, and despite that, I mean, talk about comebacks. Both game 2 and game 3 just getting so much damage done with the Harbinger drops coming in with harassment, taking out multiple expansions, and just really building this death ball that it felt like the Celestial Armada really could not hold a candle to in the late game.
It was pretty insane. I'm really learning a lot from that game. We have Theory over here. Theory, come join us. Come sit right here. We got a mic for you. Congratulations, Theory.
Congratulations.
Yay. Man, that was wild. First of all, before we get into the specifics of your game, how was it playing against Miggy? We all kind of thought he looked a lot better than we were expecting. We didn't know a whole lot about him, but yeah, his game seemed pretty good.
Yeah, he's a really strong.
Oh, I think your mic's not on, sir. 1 second. All right. You just talking there for a second?
Test.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
That's
All right,
good.
now go ahead.
Yeah, Miggy's a super good player. He definitely had the control over the map and the early game, and pretty much every game, I think. I basically had to turtle my way to this kind of like unbeatable Infernal army to win. He was outplaying me in the map control for sure.
Yeah, what do you think is like actually a thing to deal with Infernal when it comes to the
I'll hold it.
Oh, okay.
when it comes to the the late game here? Because it feels like really difficult for Celestials to actually get a solid engagement once it gets super late.
Yeah, I think early game is very strong for Celestials. They mine more. They have a lot of aggressive options and defensive options, so they have this huge advantage in the early game. But as the game goes later, there's just so much AoE from Infernals. I think they need some way to control the Magmadons better. I don't know if it's through the what's the ball unit?
The Cabal.
The Cabal. Maybe there's a way
The
to use
Cabal.
that to like control the Magmadons. But yeah, right now the AoE is pretty rough late game.
Going forward, you're going to be up against Party, who's your teammate. I mean, you two, I think for a lot of people, are basically the favorites of the tournament. How are you feeling going up against him?
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I'm not super confident, but it'll be a good time. Me
Yeah.
and Party are good friends. We practice a lot, so.
And
be good.
any other questions,
Yeah,
guys?
I have a question about game 2. You made the Shroud Stone behind the collection array.
Oh, yeah.
Is that like in response to if the Celestial does the parting push, sending the Arc ship across the map? Or could you talk to us a bit about like why you do that?
Yeah, I didn't really have that practiced, but I noticed Miggy was going a pretty fast Kree opener. So I thought if he's rushing Kree, maybe he doesn't have the power and the resources to defend it very efficiently. I'd have to watch the replay to determine whether it was worth it or not, but I feel like it wasn't worth it. I don't know what you guys thought.
That was my impression too. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like it was kind of difficult to suicide something like that so early. The resources, I mean, to go for something like that, and then it doesn't really actually like
Yeah.
it's hard to even like kill the prism or anything because they can just float away.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
So it's like hard to actually get some kind of actual
Yeah.
value with that.
Yeah, it was just, I guess, a bad idea in the moment.
All right, there you go.
Let's talk more about your mistakes.
Sorry for bringing it up, man.
Well, listen, congratulations on advancing. Do you have anything you want to say to any of the fans out there before we go to a commercial break here?
Yeah, thanks for my family and friends for watching. Thanks to Aftermath Esports. And yeah, Stormgate is awesome. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Excellent. Guys, we're going to be going to a short break here. Before we go, guys, grab a shirt. We're going to show the merch on air. Go to tastelessreds.com, buy an ugly Tasteless shirt. And we got a bunch of other stuff. We got mugs, posters, I don't know, a whole bunch of other stuff. So check it out. We will be back with the next match. Who's playing next? I'm having a brain fart.
Don't
here.
ask me.
It's Clem versus
Kiwian.
Okay,
Yes.
Clem
We did
versus
it.
Kiwian is coming up next, guys. We will see you in a little bit here. All right? Zooming right in on my crotch here. We'll be right back.